Okay, James.
No, I actually need it.
Wait, no, that's awesome. That's so good.
Is your phone waterproof?
Yeah. Go.
Hi, I'm Bob.
And I'm Rob.
We're reporting live from Big Important News.
To get news on the line, you can visit our website www.bigimport.news.io.
Big Important News. We're gonna have a guest speaker, the world famous Ian talking about the Congress of Vienna and the causes of the Revolution of 1848. Later today, we bring you Sam from the streets of France, going in depth on the French Revolution of 1848. We will also be supporting the debate of the century with Ian, John, and your very own, myself, on the isms of the 1800s and how they affected the world. And finally, we top it all off with the results of 1848. And now to Ian. Baguette.
Hello, I'm Ian, and I'm reporting on the French Revolution of 1848. After the reign of King Louis Philippe in February 1848, the French Republican government was led over the next few months. This government had become more conservative, and on June 23, 1848, the partisan people arose and were called the June riots. It was a bloody, unsuccessful protest against the partisan workers. Bonaparte was elected president of the Second Republic, which was linked to the support of farmers. For 3 years later, he stopped election meeting and established the Second Empire of France until 1870. Louis Napoleon is France's last de facto. After the reposition in June, the Revolution of 1848 ended. After the French Revolution era, the French politics was tilted to the right. However, the Order Party, the Cavagnard dictatorship, are still afraid of another popular riot on the street. Therefore, on September 2nd, 1848, the government continued the siege that had existed since June. Also on September 2nd, 1848, the Nationalist Constitutional Council pledged not to disband before creating a new constitution and promulgated the organic laws necessary to implement the new constitution. The National Constitution Council tied to the Constitution before June, but only written the first draft. The Constitution before the suppression of June 1848, however, this initial draft still contains phrases, right to work. It also contains many provisions on the requirements of the working class.
Hello, my name is John. Here I am today to bring you live footage from France. This is a recording found from days prior to the July Revolution, or the Three Glory Days. The streets of France were filled with people with hope, dignity, and enjoying each other's company. It is a beautiful sight. Not only did we see the peasants having fun, but this is how the Bourbons enjoyed their time prior to the days of the July Revolution. Again, so innocent, just try to live their life happily until everything changed. Okay, so as you guys can see, this footage was taken on the first day of the Three Glory Days, or the July Revolution. The people have started to gather up on the homes of the bourgeois and are starting to gain momentum to what will soon be a bloody 3-day war. Even so, during the second phase is when it got even bloodier, and there was a lot of thought, and it wasn't until the 1835 that Serbia was finally able to be acknowledged as its own independent state with its own constitution, abolishing serfdom, which was something heavily encouraged by the Ottoman province.
In Italy, John Locke, who is considered the father of classical liberalism, spread liberalist thoughts all across the city-states. Oh, mamma mia! A liberal is someone who is willing for a change and is willing to abandon the old way of doing things. A pizzeria. Before 1796, Italy wasn't even a country. It was more of an idea. And even in 1848, Italy was still putting itself together. A pasta! Before 1848, Italy had hardly made any achievements. A mamma mia! Since Italy was mainly owned by ancient regimes, peasants were forced to rent land at totally unreasonable prices, so they had to work very intense hours and had almost no food. These harsh conditions for lower class was called peasant discontent. A pizzeria!
But is that it?
No. During this time, the middle class, bankers, and landowners were getting very wealthy because of peasants having to buy their land and population growth. This was middle class discontent. Oh, mamma mia! The revolution of 1848 started because of ideas of liberalism and nationalism rapidly spreading throughout the country, and peasant disconnect was becoming a big problem. And middle class disconnect allowed for new railroads to be made so information could spread faster. And finally, the pressure from other countries doing the same thing. A pasta! The purpose of the revolution was to take back land from Austria and fully unite Italy. The revolution failed because the Austrian army was too strong, and there was no real leader or unification of Italy, so their attacks were unorganized and unprofessional. Oh, mamma mia! The Italian Revolution of 1848 was a minor uprising of liberalists and nationalists trying to unite Italy, but failed to unite themselves and failed to create a plan, so their attacks and the outcome was a total disaster. A pizzeria. And that's it. Back to you. This resembles the revolutions of 1848 because the nationalists here lost every single time to the conservatives. No! Because they're bad.
Bro, these people are fucking. If I'm like, hey, no, the blanket, I just imagine that there's someone actually waiting for me to. Yes. Dude, once my mom showed me that. If I was sleeping, then she came over me.
And now to Ian for the causes of the French Revolution. Ba-na-na, da-na-na.
Some of the causes of the French Revolution include the working class wanting better working conditions, yet the government opposed social reforms and did not help them. This was a failure. This led to the middle class creating armies to revolt against the government in France. Additionally, overall, there were severe food shortages, and unemployment was a really big problem. The middle class was excluded, and the lower class also, from economic regulation. Conservative governments in Europe were also working to adapt new strategies to... Wait, get rid of that. That doesn't make any sense.
Keep going.
You read the last part. Alright. In 1848, in French Revolutions, the Treaty of Chaumont restored the Bourbon dynasty, and the bicameral legislature that had influence. Protests by locals, however, created big riots under Louis Philippe's constitutional monarchy. He was the king of the people, supposedly.
That's it. The debate of the century. Hello, I'm Bob.
Go.
I myself am representing nationalism.
Okay, go. Go.
Hello, and I'm John, presenting liberalism.
I'm Ian.
Okay,
I'm representing socialism.
Say go to it's time.
But to remember,
Go.
Although the nationalist ideals failed, they were still important ideas of the revolution in 1848.
No, it was not. The socialists were the most important group of the revolution. It was by far the socialists because, first of all, they won and they showed themselves throughout history as an effective way of ruling throughout all time.
Just because the socialists won, it does not mean they were right. The socialists were like dictators. They rarely work out. And as we can see in Cuba, Russia, China, Venezuela, and more, they don't work.
Second here. You're saying that the nationalists were the most important party, but they lost, right? Stop.
Yes, sir.
The definition of nationalism is someone who identifies with one's own nation and support for its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations. In other words, people that stand together. Am I right, though?
Yes, that is correct.
Then how do you say that the nationalists were good if they weren't able to come together and be nationalists? Although they were fighting for one cause, they couldn't come together because of lack of communication. They fought out of anger, not for the nationalist party. The liberalists are true to their cause and managed to come together and not fight, but change the law by teaching common sense.
The liberalists and the nationalists have the same ideals, though.
They have very similar political ideas, but the nationalists only have respect in their countries or their own religion, and sometimes even their own race. While us liberalists only care about the correct political government, but the nationalists were focused on saving their country, not the world.
I guess they failed then, right? And that's why every revolution in 1848 failed, in every country, right?
Oof, that's a good point. You're 100% correct.
Here, I have an agreement that hopefully everybody can agree on. The nationalists were a strong group that failed to see beyond the moment. The socialists were a strong, forceful group that managed to win the revolutions of 1848, but had unstable political views. And finally, the liberalists were a unanimous group throughout Europe that managed to reteach the knowledges about government and make a change.
That is exactly what went down, and you said it perfectly.
Although the nationalists didn't win anything, you are completely right, and I agree.
It's going to be a cold night.
What you got there, James?
Yo, my fidget spinner folder. Bro, I need this. Bro, I need that for... Bro, I actually...
Oh.
I actually needed that.
How are we gonna get that?
That's all for the 1848 special of Big Important News. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, and for news on the go, you can visit our website, www.bigimportantnews.io. See you next time.